Hey guys, it's Hope here with the Hopeful Spirit podcast, the alternative wellness series. It's all about sharing information on practices, modalities, and therapies that will elevate your life. To grow our knowledge, I'll be having conversations with thought leaders, practitioners, and influencers as we journey together through a network of holistic health. All right. Hello, everybody. This is Hope, and I'm with Amanda Wonderland. What a wonderful name, right?
Thank you.
I feel like we have the best names for our industry.
Yes, yes.
I am excited to talk to you because, like we were speaking before about, one of the episodes that I wanted to do was about EFT, and that's something that you specialize in.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that you can share information that is helpful for the community. And so first I want to ask you, okay, so it says here, clinical EFT practitioner, somatic therapies-informed yoga instructor, and a worth and wellness coach.
Yeah.
And a transformation facilitator. That's
Yes.
a lot of stuff. Blah, 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 blah. What does that mean?
Multifaceted. We'll start with the first one. So,
Okay.
clinical EFT practitioner means that I have studied the evidence-based form of EFT. So, EFT is pretty simple. It's the people's tool, which is what I love about it. Anybody can do it. You don't have to pay a practitioner for the rest of your life. But they have figured out a specific protocol, a formula that could be followed so that we know that when they do the studies to see how it affects PTSD, trauma, anxiety, depression, stress, all these other things, they know that they have this specific formula that they go through. So that's what I've studied, and that's what I have my certificate in. And it's still very much the people's tool, but they've just systematized it so that it works for research very well. Yeah, so that they're not just having lots of people come in and do lots of different things and trying to get the numbers from that. So that's the clinical EFT practitioner.
Okay.
And then I'm also a yoga instructor, but I studied somatic therapy, so really getting into the body when you're working on emotional issues. So a lot of times for people, yoga can be strictly physical, or it can be a combination of spiritual and physical and uniting the breath with the body or yourself with greater consciousness or source energy. But with the yoga that I do, we're really focusing on the emotions as well. So getting into the body and realizing that every bit of emotional turmoil that we experience is actually an energetic block in the body. So combining those types of somatic therapies of diaphragmatic breathing, and we do a lot of somatic experiencing of shaking things out and just really getting your body involved in the emotional resolution. So it's hatha and vinyasa and yin yoga with some combinations of somatic therapies and tapping mixed in as well. And then the worth and wellness coach is super duper exciting because I feel like my philosophy on life is that we are all born whole and worthy. We're all born just absolutely perfect, like these pure streams of consciousness with nothing really impeding our flow at all. And then as we grow up, we learn from our society, from our culture, from our parents, our teachers, our siblings, our leaders, the way that they see life, which for them is correct. But as they give it to us growing up, it forms these blocks, these limiting beliefs that prevent us from really staying authentic to that whole and worthy self that we were born in. So my goal with EFT and somatic therapies and all that is to get rid of all the blocks in our stream, all those rocks that came up from our leaders telling us how things should be, and so that we can get back into that pure stream of consciousness and into the flow of abundance. So I feel like worth is number one when it comes to manifesting in your life, feeling good about yourself. All of it is getting that worth back, getting rid of society's ideas that I'm not good enough, I'm not thin enough, I'm not busy enough, I'm not wealthy enough, all that stuff. So that's my goal, is to get everybody back to their authentic worth. And then once we do that, we can really focus on holistic wellness. So really getting the health, wealth, love, and career, all those 4 segments of our life fully aligned and in our worth. So that's my main passion, is getting people into their worth and wellness. And then the Transformation Facilitator is just kind of a byproduct of all those other things. Because doing the EFT, doing the somatic informed yoga, and really working on your worth and wellness is going to lead to some transformation. And so sometimes that can be a little disorienting when someone has a self-concept of who they are.
Yes.
And we pull all those rocks out of the stream, and then they're like, well, now what?
Right.
You know, it's like, what do I do here? So I help facilitate that transformation by putting in the ideas that you want, helping you really create the person that you want to be. So as those self-concepts die, we put in the positive self-concepts, and then you really can achieve lasting, authentic transformation in that way. So those are my 4 titles.
Right? So let's talk about so what's coming up. What is this? It's a couple of weekends, right? 2 different events that you're having.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit more about those?
Totally. Super exciting. Right now we have 2 weekends booked, but our plan is to eventually do them monthly.
Oh, okay.
So my co-creatrix and myself, her name is Kalyan Darshan, and you guys actually did a podcast together.
Yes.
So yeah, people could listen to that and get a little bit of her information as well. So we have come together and combined my energy psychology and mindfulness meditation and neuroscience with her Kundalini yoga and sound healing and breath work and all the wonderful things that we've learned. We've combined those together to create these intensive 4 to 5 day retreats for women in these really high vibe destinations across the planet. So we want to take them somewhere where it's really beautiful, really calm. We can bathe in the beauty of Mother Nature as we do this serious work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? As we go in and refresh their spirits, release their emotional wounds, rewire their brains. Like, that's what we're doing. We're reclaiming their power, we're reframing their worlds, and we're resetting their lives. So it's basically for women who are feeling like they're being called to up-level in some way, but they don't really know how.
Yeah.
Or every time they start to, they get blocked. They get sabotaged.
You answered that was going to be my next question. Who is this created for?
That's for these people who consciously know that they want their life to be different and they want to create something new for themselves, but for some reason their underlying patterns, dysfunctional and maladaptive beliefs and limiting beliefs are preventing them from actually achieving the lives that they want to. So it's for women who maybe are empty nesters now. They've raised their children. They're looking for new purpose in their life. For women who are feeling like they've hit a wall or a ceiling in their career and they're ready to up level. They're trying to start their own businesses, as so many of us have, and are really just trying to achieve transformation, but having a really hard time doing it. So those are the women we have a passion for.
Do you feel like anybody needs any type of experience with like some of the language or the movement that you guys are going to be doing on these?
Yeah, not at all.
Okay.
Not at all.
I know a lot of people get freaked out like, I've never done yoga before.
I know.
What is meditation and all these things? So.
Everything about it is kind of it could be a challenge for someone. First of all, going to a foreign country, going somewhere that's new for you.
Anxiety right away.
Yeah, for sure. Meeting all of these new people, trying these modalities that you haven't tried. I mean, it does require taking risks, jumping off cliffs, believing in yourselves, and being at that point in your life where the universe has made you so uncomfortable that you have to do something about it. And sometimes I think it does that, where it's like, I had to. You weren't going to move unless that made you uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we recognize that there's a lot of apprehension about all of those things. And so we do our very best to make sure that our women feel completely at ease, completely free to be themselves, completely safe, unconditional positive regard, nothing less than love and light when we speak to our women. But when it comes to yoga and any of the other modalities, you can be completely clueless about all of it. Our yoga meets you where you're at. Our EFT meets you where you're at. And we will start from square one and teach you everything as we work through the 4 or 5 days. And then you can take all of that home with you and continue using it in your life.
Build a practice at your home. I would like to know if, like, say somebody who is thinking about coming to one of your events and they are like extreme anxiety, or they have like freak out moments or panic attacks, you know, they are going to be alone. How would you guys handle something like that? They have this meltdown in the middle of the work.
Yeah. Are you okay if I tap while I talk about this?
No, that's fine.
Okay, I'm quite a tapper. I tap pretty much all the time, so don't mind me. Basically what tapping does for trauma, for anxiety, for any of these heightened emotions is calm them down. And that's why I've chosen this modality.
Okay.
I always knew I wanted to work with individuals in some type of therapeutic context. All of my career aptitude stuff said that's what I'm supposed to do when I was in high school. And as I learned all of that, I was like, I don't know if I can take that on. I'm too empathic. I feel other people's stuff.
I want somebody else's shit.
I don't know that I can deal with that, and I don't know how to help myself. How am I supposed to help those people? You know what I mean? But I always had like a calling. So I spent, 20 plus years working on myself before I felt like I could actually be of service to other people. And I found EFT, and that's how I figured out this is how I'm going to do it.
Okay.
Because it's actually something practical that I can give them that works immediately.
No tools needed.
You have your hands and that's it. You can do it anywhere at any time as long as you don't really care. If people see you doing crazy things. But there are ways to, tap certain points that are underneath the table or underneath your desk if you're on a Zoom call. Or, we tend to put our hands on the spots where our meridian ends are anyway when we're stressed. So, for instance, when we're stressed, sometimes we'll hold the spot right at the top of our nose, right here, or just the sides of our eyes like this. How many times have you seen people do that?
A head stroker.
Yes, totally. And the same with that's on the top of your head, even here.
Yes.
These are our spots right here, when people do this is your collarbone spot. So for those of you who can't see the camera, I'm touching all of the different meridian spots, which we can talk about later. But people tend to do that anyway when they're stressed out. And so we've just kind of codified it into a system that really helps. So to answer your question, if a woman, came to our retreat really, really stressed, really high on anxiety, really overwhelmed, out of their element, we would start tapping immediately. Immediately. And so just doing 5 minutes of tapping lowers your stress for the next 90 minutes.
Okay.
And so that's why I'm not too concerned about dealing with traumatized clients at our retreats, because EFT works so quickly and effectively on trauma. And we do have specific techniques that we use if someone's having a freak out in that moment. We have these gentle ways to go about calming them down and kind of having a plan in place in case anything like that happens. People that we could refer them to if we felt like it might be a bigger problem than we could handle using EFT. And there are some mental conditions that, we would recommend if you're going to use EFT, you use it while also under the guidance of a licensed medical professional. So for certain things, like schizophrenia possibly and bipolar disorder and things like that, things where people are on medication, we definitely would recommend, if you're going to use EFT, absolutely go for it, but make sure that you still have a licensed medical practitioner that is helping you oversee your medicine and stuff like that.
Well, I think that's actually kind of a great segue to talk about EFT, because I know a lot of people may have never even heard of this technique, and obviously you believe a great deal in this. Like it's been helpful. So can you talk a little bit about that? Maybe even include some like success stories, or like something that like kind of blew your mind. You're like, whoa, this stuff really works.
Yeah, oh, for sure. I'm a living success story, definitely. So EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Techniques, and there are actually like 48 of them, but we basically just stick with like the basic recipe, which I'll teach you today. And it came about around like the 70s, and so they were doing a lot of psychotherapy with vets coming back from World War II and from Vietnam, and I think they didn't even call it PTSD back then, they called it shell shock.
Right.
But they were all coming back and they were all having these same symptoms, and so they were doing cognitive behavioral therapy with them and doing talk therapy. What they realized is that they were re-traumatizing all of them because they would just talk
taking
through
them back
it.
into it, yeah.
Yeah, and there was just nothing they could do, and now we've realized that those traumas live in the body, and that's why somatic therapies help so much. So they started having them just diaphragmatic breathe. So they would tell the stories and then present this contradictory experience in the body. So even though their mind is reliving the trauma and their body is going into fight or flight, because that's how our minds work, right? Like there's not actually a tiger there, but the stress that we feel for this deadline makes us think that our life is in danger, you know? So they noticed that as they had these vets breathe deeply into their diaphragm, they were able to process these traumas more, and they weren't re-traumatizing them. So they kept working with somatic practices, and then thought field therapy came about, where we started getting into the acupoints. And then Roger Callahan and Gary Craig are these two amazing guys in the 70s who really formulated EFT and said, these are the 9 points that we're going to do. And ever since then, it's just been cutting edge, groundbreaking, and there have been 100+ clinical trials that have all proved significant efficacy of the tool. And so for me, I thought it was crazy when I first looked at it. I was just desperate for anything to help me.
Here's another thing.
I know, and I was a self-help junkie. I mean, you name it, I had tried it. And at this point in my life, this was about 2.5, 3 years ago, I was dealing with chronic back pain.
Okay.
I was a flight attendant, and so I would end up, serving my customers and then sit for the next 6 hours because there's really not much else to do as a flight attendant. And I wasn't really living a healthy lifestyle.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine.
It's so hard. I mean, we were up all night doing red eyes. We were in different cities every night. There was just unhealthy food, alcohol, all kinds of stuff.
Yes.
I just wasn't really living my best life, and my lower back was killing me. It's all I thought about. I woke up with it. I went to bed with it. I carried foam rollers, lacrosse balls, heating pads, cold packs everywhere that I went. It was awful. And I was just at my wit's end. I was like, fine, I'm going to try this crazy looking thing where people tap all over their faces and just look insane. I'm just going to try it. And I noticed that it helped me calm down a little bit, but I wasn't totally sold at first. But for some reason, I was like, I'm going to keep doing it. Just like I did with my yoga and meditation, I'm going to do it every single day, even if I'm not sure if it's working. And within a few weeks, my back pain had completely disappeared.
Wow.
Completely. And I want to cry just talking about it because I'm so grateful that it's gone. I really thought I was going to be stuck with it for the rest of my life. I don't know if you know that feeling, but I've had those types of feelings, and it was just terrifying. So that's my success story.
Yeah.
And then from there, I mean, I use it every single time I'm emotionally triggered. So sometimes that's multiple times throughout the day.
Yeah.
And I tap regularly with a practitioner once a week because I'm still so, I mean, I don't know that the work ever ends.
Right.
But it has opened me up in a way that has just revealed the onion of trauma and childhood stuff and limiting beliefs and all these things. And the more that I sort through it, it's like just peeling layers of the onion. And it's really nice to get to work with someone who can kind of help you sort through that. So tapping is the people's tool. You can use it anywhere at any time by yourself. But it is nice to work with a practitioner every now and then to really get an organized session.
Well, yeah, and I think sometimes you kind of, you think you've solved something, or maybe you felt like you've had a breakthrough, and in some cases it's just like you just don't really get the thing that you're doing. Does that make sense? Like, you can read it and see other people do it, and of course, like, there's all these things that you can see online now. But when you're right face to face, eyeball to eyeball, you're like, this is real. And there's no veil to hide you from that thing. And I think that's where people get intimidated, is I'm dealing with this now. I can't go run to my drink, or I can't run to my person that I vent everything to and just give it all to them.
Right.
I'm dealing with myself. And so, yeah, I think it's great to have somebody to work with. And there's a trust, there's an intimacy, working with people. I mean, I notice it too. You give that a little bit of trust. And it's hard to find people like that these days. So I applaud you guys for offering this service to people, like this healing.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And a practitioner can guide you too in a very specific way. So a lot of it has to do with your feelings, your emotions, and in self-help work, I think a lot of us try to tackle it cognitively. We're like, well, no, this is what my mother did, and this is why this is this way, and this is this way. And so a practitioner will say, we're going to turn off the mind. We can give your mind a break right now, because we just want to focus on your feelings and your body right now. So that's what I really value about having a practitioner. But you made an excellent point that if you're going to engage in EFT, there are no more veils. There's no toxic positivity. There's no spiritual bypass. It is about exposure. And that's how we reprogram our neural pathways. So this is my favorite part about EFT. And it's the transformation sequence. And it's what neuroscientists have coined memory reconsolidation. And so what they used to think is that once we've had a memory, an event, a trauma, it's locked in our brain, and those synapses are locked, never to be opened again. And they've learned through neuroscience that once you open those up, there's about a 4-hour reconsolidation window where you have lability in there, where you're able to change your neural pathways.
Okay.
And so the way that you do that is through this sequence. Is vivid re-exposure to the memory, event, trauma, whatever it is. They want you to really feel it so we can fire up those neural bundles. That's how we do it. And then we present the contradictory experience, which is tapping, which is letting your body know there's not actually a tiger. Otherwise, I wouldn't be tapping. I'd be running for my life. You know what I mean? You can do that with diaphragmatic breathing. You can do that with breath work. You can do it with many other somatic practices. EFT is the one that I've chosen. And then you just repeat that process. So exposure, contradictory experience, which we also use with the acceptance statement, which I'll tell you about in just a moment, and then we repeat it, and that's how we retrain your neural pathways so that you can actually achieve real lasting transformation. So do you want to hear how the sequence goes?
Sure.
Okay, cool. Let me tell you the points first, the 9 acupressure points that we use in tapping. We start with the side of the hand here, so you'll just use one hand to tap on the other side of the hand. It's basically from where the bottom of your pinky hits to your wrist. And you can tap it just as hard as you would drum on a table, and our body is symmetrical, so you can do it on either side. You can also do
That's
it
what I was
like,
going to ask.
yeah, you can, either side. You can also just tap the sides of your hands together. And it is not more effective if you do both at the same time. It's the same. So this one is what we start with, and this one's really good for when a part of you feels like it doesn't want to be stressed, but a part of you is stressed. This really helps kind of align those parts of you. So this is the side of the hand point. And then from here we move to the top of the head. It's right where your crown chakra would be, or right where a soft spot would be on a baby. And then we move to the eyebrow point. So it's on the inside edges of your eyebrows, right where they meet the bridge of your nose. And you can just use 2 fingers to tap right there. And then we move to the side of the eye. It's right there where the bone is on the side of your eye. So be a little gentle, but you want to be right where that bone is, because these points are about the size of a pinhead. This is right where an acupuncturist would put a needle.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but we're going to not use needles on this one. And then underneath the eye, stay right there on the bone, and it's directly underneath your pupil. And this is your stomach meridian. So they all correlate to different organs in your body. And then we'll go underneath the nose. So it's right in between your nose and your upper lip. And so this is sending a signal to your amygdala right now saying, no need to create cortisol or adrenaline. We're actually cool. We're not being chased by a tiger. And then we go underneath the mouth. So it's right in between the lower lip and the chin. And then we have 2 more spots. And we just do about 5 to 7 times in each spot. The collarbone is, the best way to tell you is to find the little divot in the middle of your collarbone. And then you go down an inch and out an inch towards your shoulders. So then you just tap right there. And then underneath the arm is where the bra line is in women. So if you are not a woman, you can just use your 4 fingers and go directly under your armpit, and then that spot is right there. So those are the 9 spots that we use.
Okay.
And then the sequence starts with the exposure. This is the setup statement.
Okay.
There's the exposure statement, and then there's the acceptance statement, and then there's the repetition.
Okay.
So we could work on something that you want to work on, or we could just use stress or not enough time.
I think the not enough time is good
time. Okay,
for.
cool.
Then I know a lot of people could use this at home too. So.
Yeah, I could use it for sure. For sure. So this is how it starts.
Okay.
We state the problem. So we speak the truth. No toxic positivity, no spiritual bypass. This is how I really feel. I feel like I don't have enough time. Or I feel like there's never enough time. Which one of those do you think resonates most?
I feel like there's never enough time.
Okay, cool. And then we decide on a scale of 1 to 10, either how distressing that is for you or how true that feels for you. So this one will probably be a true. There are 2 scales that we use. One is called the subjective unit of distress, and that's like I'm stressed at a 10. 0 to 10.
Like if I'm having a moment right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So 0 is I'm not stressed at all.
Okay.
10 is I'm as stressed as I've ever been.
Okay.
And then we have another scale, which is called the validity of cognition. And that means how strong do you believe that to be true? So it's 0 means I don't believe it to be true at all. 10 means it's absolute truth. So I think with what we're doing right now, which is that there's never enough time, this is a limiting belief. This is a cognition. So we'll use VOC.
Okay.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, how true do you believe there's never enough time is?
I'm going to say a 7.
7. Okay, cool. And then we start tapping.
Okay.
So on the side of the hand, we'll say, even though I think there's never enough time.
Even though I think there's never enough time.
And then this is our acceptance statement.
Okay.
So the traditional one is, I deeply and completely love and accept myself.
I deeply and completely love and accept myself.
So as for you, Hope, how true does that feel, that statement? I deeply and completely love and accept myself.
I'm pretty confident about that.
You're good with that one.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, me too. For some people, when they come in, they're like, I'm not even close to loving or accepting myself.
Yeah.
I am not okay with that. So it has to be true for you. Okay. Otherwise, we're just painting over it with toxic positivity. You know what I mean?
What you're saying, yes.
Yeah, so it could be, even though I believe there's never enough time, I'm open to accepting how I feel about this. Just something to allow you to create a contradictory experience, but still stay true and authentic to how you're feeling.
I feel it buzzing already in my hand.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
if you're familiar with energy work.
Yeah, energy work, yeah.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah. So we do that 3 times while we're tapping on the side of the hand. So we'll say it again. Even though I feel like there's never enough time.
Even though I feel like there's never enough time.
I deeply and completely love and accept myself.
I deeply and completely love and accept myself.
Yeah, and we'll do it one more time. Even though I feel like there's never enough time.
Even though I feel like there's never enough time.
I deeply and completely love and accept myself.
I deeply, completely love and accept myself.
Right, and then we'll tap through the points as we remind ourselves of this cognition. So we'll go to the top of the head and say, there's just never enough time.
There's just never enough time.
And then we go to the eyebrow. There's never enough time.
There's never enough time.
Side of the eye. There's so much I want to do.
There's so much I want to do.
Underneath the eye. And there's never enough time.
There's never enough time.
Mm-hmm. Underneath the nose. I never have enough time.
I never have enough time.
Underneath the mouth. To do everything I want to do.
To do everything I want to do.
And we go to the collarbone. I feel like there's just never enough time.
I feel like there is never enough time.
Good, you're feeling it. I love that. Underneath the arm. Never enough time.
Never enough time.
Okay, so we've only just done one round, but we're just going to stop and check in. Take a breath. Sometimes it's good to take a drink if you want to. That kind of moves energy. Not required, but then we check in and we just see if that number is still at a 6 when you think there's never enough time. How true is that for you?
It's probably about the same.
Okay, so be prepared for that because we've only done one round, and then also be prepared that it could go up. Okay. Because we're shining a light on something that hasn't had a light shown
Okay.
shone on it.
Shown.
We're getting okay from the editor over there. Yes. It hasn't been seen in a really long time, and so now it's like, oh, hello, you know.
Yeah,
so sometimes the number will go up. So that's why we normally repeat with another round.
Okay.
So then we'll say, even though I still feel like there's never enough time.
Even though I still feel like there's never enough time.
I accept how I feel about this.
I accept how I feel about this.
Yep, 2 more times. Even though I still feel like there's never enough time.
Even though I feel like there's never enough time.
I choose to show myself compassion.
I choose to show myself compassion.
Does that feel true?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Even though I feel like there's never enough time.
Even though I feel like there's never enough time.
I'm open to feeling differently about this.
I'm open to feeling differently about this.
Yeah, top of the head. There is never enough time.
There's never enough time.
Eyebrow. Oh, I want more time.
Oh, I want more time.
Side of the eye. There's so much I want to do.
There's so much I want to do.
Underneath the eye, and there's just never enough time for all of them.
And never enough time for all of them.
And then underneath the nose, I wish I had more time.
I wish I had more time.
Underneath the mouth to do all the things I want to do.
To do all the things I want to do.
Collarbone, but there's just never enough time.
But there's just never enough time.
Mm-hmm. Underneath the arm, never enough time.
Never enough time.
You okay if we dig a little deeper with this, Hope?
Sure.
Okay, we'll go to the top of the head,
Okay.
and we'll just keep tapping as I ask you, do you feel anything in your body when you say there's never enough time?
There's never enough time. I mean, not really, but there's some sensation in my hands.
It's in your fingertips?
It kind of shot down to my hands.
Okay,
That's really the only thing, yeah.
What's it feel like?
Just like a awareness of energy. I guess that's the best way to explain it.
Okay. Do you remember ever having felt that sensation before?
Oh, yeah, like just from massage work.
Okay.
Just, I don't know.
Just feeling energy go through your fingers.
Well, no, I mean, I do Reiki, so
Mm.
I know that feeling, but this was more just like, I was trying to see where it was at, I guess. The best way to explain it.
Yeah, I hear you.
So
I think that probably has more to do with the energy that we're moving around than getting back to so normally what we do is, what do you feel in your body when you say there's never enough time? And then we trace that sensation back to the first time that you felt that sensation, and that lets us target the root memory.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think you're feeling something different somatically just from moving all the energy around.
Oh,
which
yeah,
is great,
yeah.
Which is great. But we do trace back to the original event that made you form this belief that there's never enough time. And we do that through feeling the sensations in the body. And then we'll also go back to a specific event.
Okay.
So there might be some time in your childhood or even in the last few years or few months that you just really felt that, like, I'm never going to have enough time to do any of the things that I want.
Oh, I felt it a lot over the years, so there's probably lots of layers of onion there.
Yeah. And then, so next time you feel it, just notice in your body what it feels like in your body. And then for me, I normally feel a lot of stuff in my chest and my throat.
Okay.
And then that leads me to, when was the first time that I felt this, or the worst time that I felt it? So we focus on the first or the worst.
Okay.
Generally. And that helps you get into that memory. So then we'd move from there. Let me just make it up. So even though my grandmother was always rushed, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. Even though my grandmother never knew how to slow down, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. Or whatever it is.
Okay.
Even though in this specific event, my grandmother was dragging me out the door because I wasn't moving fast enough for her, I deeply and completely love and accept myself.
Okay.
And so that's how we get to the root issue, the core issue, so that we can pluck that out and achieve lasting transformation.
Okay. So do you feel like somebody who's having a trigger moment, that would be the best time to do something like this? Or, or if it's something that so you could probably do both. They're having a trigger moment, you're trying to figure out what's behind the trigger. Or somebody who is just working on some like core stuff, like you said you're still always kind of working through some things. So this is either or.
And.
Okay.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Because generally when you get triggered during the day, it's not because of what that person did to you. We usually have disproportionate emotional responses to what people did to us because it stems back to what happened to us as a child. Otherwise, I wouldn't be so upset that you slammed the car door. But it reminds me of when my dad did it when I was 3 and it terrified me. You know what I mean? So that's why we have these responses. So I think it can be either or. It can be let's deal with this trigger in the moment, but generally those triggers lead us back to a core issue, which is beautiful because then it doesn't trigger you as much anymore. That's what they've learned through neuroscience is once you've repeated that and you've retrained your neural pathways, you still have that memory of your dad slamming the door. It just doesn't affect you as much because you've diffused the emotional charge underneath it.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah. Which is super exciting and liberating, right?
Well, yeah, especially now with like everything that's going on, the picking up the pieces from the pandemic, still like people traumatized from certain events going on there, like walking outside or in a crowd, like there's so much also, it's so vast. Like, I could just go through a list, and I'm sure you can too, of all the things that people are going through, and what this technique can help people with, like, on deep levels. And what I did notice is that, we were talking about that veil earlier, people kind of will, what's the word I'm looking for, when you push something away?
Suppress, avoid.
Suppress, I can't think of it. But yeah, sort of that way where they're faced with something and they don't want to work on that issue. And so I can see somebody trying this at home and, you know, what would you say for somebody who's like trying to work on stuff, they don't really have the means or the funds to find a practitioner? What is some advice that you can give people that are just sitting at home trying to work through their shit?
Well, YouTube.
Well, you just said there was like so many different versions of EFT, and like how do you, like, who do you know the truth, the source truth? That's for me, that's important. Like, I'm getting to the source, like, to what's the truth of the thing that's really going to help me. And because there's a lot of, you know, false people don't really know what they're doing or talking about, and they're just giving out information freely all over the place.
Yeah, I agree. I have really good resources for that. So the way that I got into tapping was through general tapping. So you have general tapping and you have specific tapping. And the Tapping Solution is an app that you can get online, and it's general tapping. So it'll be tapping for stress relief, and everybody uses the same words, and it does help. At the beginning, they have you rate your subjective unit of distress. How stressed am I? How upset am I? How anxious am I? How depressed am I? How apathetic am I? All these different things. And then they'll basically give you a script and you repeat everything. So that's not very specific to your traumas, right? But I think that's a great way to start. That's what helped me with my back pain, to be honest, was the Tapping Solution. And then there's the Tapping Place, which is what the company that I got my certification through is called EFT Universe. And they have basically a place where you can find people that do evidence-based clinical EFT. So that's for people who are able to hire a practitioner. There's also free resources for people that aren't, and you can find that at thestress-solution.com. But as far as like finding someone on YouTube or any free resources, the thing with tapping is it's not going to lead you wrong. Okay. You know, even if you are not following the clinical EFT or the evidence-based EFT, you're tapping on the acupuncture point. So as long as you're tapping on there, your brain is getting the signal. Okay. Regardless of which point they start with first, it doesn't matter what order. So there are some really great people on YouTube that you could do general tapping with, but when it comes to dealing with your specific limiting beliefs or traumas or emotions, it's really quite a simple formula. So there's a problem box. You put your problem in a box, and it basically is, even though I have this problem, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. That's it. And then you state the problem so that you can remember it. So you're reminding yourself with these reminder phrases as you go through. So it really is something that you can do at home. And if you begin to feel overwhelmed, you just keep tapping.
Okay. Because see, I feel like a lot of people will be like, oh, it's there. I got to stop. It just feels uncomfortable with me.
There's an element of courage.
Okay.
That definitely has to come into doing any of this work.
Yes,
any of this shadow work, any of this inner child reparenting, any of this courage to look back at what formed you into the person that you are today. And some people can just be really happy with who they are as people. I've unfortunately never really had that growing up. I just always felt like something was wrong, and I wasn't quite happy with how I was showing up in the world, and it's because I had all these subconscious limiting beliefs that were running the show. I was asleep behind the wheel, and my inner child was running everything, and I didn't like it.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, I think you can do EFT on your own, following the simple formula. And the secret for when you start to feel overwhelmed is don't stop tapping. Just don't stop.
That's the thing. I think that's what gets people to not finish. And I think part of that is that they felt that they pushed it away for so long and they just didn't want to deal with it. So, you know, I'm always like, go through your shit and just get shit or get off the pot. That's kind of my...
I know. Well, I mean, I've always been passionate about women. Like, that's my degree is in women and gender studies. And right out of college, I got straight into motivational speaking for adolescent girls on body image and personal safety and worth and wellness.
Yeah.
So it's always been, like, part of my passion. But I got to tell you, Gabor Mate, do you know who that is? He's a psychiatrist. Oh my goodness. Just doing amazing work in the field of psychology. And he just came out with a new book called The Myth of Normal. And it talks about how we deal with emotions and illness in this toxic society where we're not allowed to talk about how we feel because there's so much toxic positivity. And he talked about the 5 traits of people with chronic illness and autoimmune disorders. And they completely floored me. And I have not been able to get them off my mind since then. You want to hear it?
Yeah.
Okay. So I have to look at these notes just to make sure. So number 1 is an automatic and compulsive concern for the emotional needs of others at your own expense. Number 1. Number 2 is rigid identification with duty, role, and responsibility.
Yes.
So we glorify that in our society, right? So it's very much
all our
like...
labels.
Yeah, I'm actually going to look at my notes just to make sure I say everything that I want to say here. It's that idea of I can do everything for everybody, you know? And so crazy. Like, and I know a lot of people that identify with that. 3rd is repression of healthy anger. So that's what you're talking about. We're used to just repressing it, pushing it away. It's not socially acceptable. We are taught as children that angry kids don't get loved. Because when we're angry, we're sent to our room or we're punished or, you know. 4 is belief that I'm responsible for how other people feel. So 1 is that I'm automatically and compulsively concerned with them. 4 is that I'm responsible for it. And 5 is that I can't disappoint anybody. So 80% of people with chronic illness and autoimmune disorders are women. Because women identify very strongly with all 5 of these. I'm not saying that men don't. They definitely do. But the identification with role and duty and responsibility, and the main thing is while ignoring your own. At the expense of your own emotional well-being.
Yeah, and giving your energy away.
Which is why our bodies get sick.
Yeah.
Right? Because we're not giving them the love that they need. So that's why, like, my passion for this has just tenfold since I read that. Because I'm like, these can be prevented. We can stop these behaviors and give our bodies back the thriving health that they desire by changing the way that we show up in the world emotionally, too. You know, so that's why I want to help women more than anything.
You think it's part of a program, or like why, like right now, what do you think right now is causing people to not, first of all, see these things? I mean, because that's part of it, is like opening your eyes to it. And because then they're like, oh, well, nah, I don't do that. And then you got to shine the light on it, right? But yeah, what do you think are like the main contributing factors? Is it duty and role, or is it's just inset in their program, their traditional upbringing?
Yeah, I do. I think that there's some ancestral and generational trauma in there. I think that it has a lot to do with the fact that this is just how it's always been. I do think that things are changing now, which is very exciting, that these younger generations are like, wait, I'm not willing to sell my soul to survive. Right. I'm not willing to give up my boundaries. I'm not willing to allow a corporation to misuse and abuse me. I'm not willing to allow a partner, a child, an animal, you know, because we just never, like, we just didn't know. So to be honest, I think there's a lot of ignorance that women especially didn't know that we had a voice, that we could have a voice, that it was okay to express healthy anger. Like, it just had a lot to do with how we were raised growing up, that we saw our mothers and our grandmothers feel responsible for the emotional well-being of others at the expense of their own. They felt like they might die if they disappointed someone. It really was a huge life or death type thing.
I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
I've heard that a lot. Like, this is I'm supposed to do all these things for my partner.
Yeah.
Like, if I don't, then I'm a disappointment to them, or I'm not I'm not making them happy, or you know, I know there's been some role reversals and then mixtures, and I'm not even going to get into that whole subject, but traditionally, that's, you know, the woman moving into the workplace, and I could even say, like, for the whole, like, gaming aspect of it, because, like, my older daughter, they're both gamers, and I'm like, how do you spend that much time? You're not even talking to each other. You're talking to other people online. And so, like, it's a disconnection. There it is. I knew it was in there somewhere. A disconnection. Like, there's so much going on that people are disconnected and what's the other word? They're distracted. Disconnected and distracted.
Oh, I would agree with that completely.
Yeah, and so we're not, that's part of, like, the blinding issue. So then we just push those things aside, and then we don't have the attention span to even watch a video that's an hour long. So, like, where do we find that balance? So, yeah, I see a lot of the same answers to those questions, like what people are looking for, what they're needing, what they're dealing with stress-wise, and deep within their selves. And that introspection is, like, hard for people to deal with. And so, like, you know, if you're ready to do that kind of work, she's got some awesome events coming up.
Yeah.
And she's got some awesome partners too. That
for sure.
I have to link the other video, so people can get to know her.
I do think that's normal, though. I do want to just say that when we go through a trauma or something, we tend to fragment. So our parts, we become different parts in our psyche. So there's a part of us that that has to recognize the trauma and kind of deal with it. And then there's another part that's just a survival instinct that says, oh, I just have to keep going.
Yeah.
That's the part that's like, no one's going to pay my bills or raise my kids for me. I still have to keep going. And that's okay. Like, for us to like autopilot that part. Yes.
And then so every self-care goes out the window.
Yes. Yeah, and that's a trauma response, you know? So compassion for that. And sometimes people will live their whole lives in that part. That part, I just have to keep going, I have to keep going. But what I think is happening is as we're all reaching our crucial, no, I can't think of the word.
Sorry.
But that's okay. That point where we just cannot suppress anymore, we cannot distract anymore.
It's like a breaking point.
Breaking point, exactly. And that's when the universe says, I'm going to make you so uncomfortable that you're going to have to do something.
Yes.
You know, and so I think that's what's happening. And I don't think that we can force people to find that point. I think everyone's going to have to do it on their own. Yeah. And when they do, we're ready for you.
Yeah, when you're ready and willing.
Yeah, we are ready for you.
We got you, girl.
You've got so many people that have great tools, great ways to help you deal with the discomfort of finally just saying, I'm sick of my own stuff. I'm sick of getting in my own way. I'm sick of my sabotage. I'm sick of my patterns. I'm sick of my dysfunctional relationship dynamics. I'm sick of my inner critic. I mean, there's just so many things that we all deal with, and we finally just put our foot down and say, that's it. Drawing a line in the sand, I'm not going to have you in my life anymore, and these are the tools that can help you actually do that instead of just saying it and trying to pretend it into existence. I'm not really good at faking it till I make it. I need to get truly authentic and get into the shadow and inner child and solve it from there.
Well, and I feel like, too, like something has to be said about just doing the work, like giving something enough an opportunity to actually work in your life. Like, you've been doing these negative habits for a long time, developing like bad behaviors, and you can't expect like overnight for it to just go away. Like, I have people come to me all the time, massage wise, or like, this body part is messed up, and it, you know, it's getting a little bit better, a little bit at a time, and that's how it is. Like, baby steps to kind of reclaim your health, mental and physical. But it takes, like you said before, courage and willingness to do no matter what, and give these things, these alternative therapies, an opportunity to do what they need to do. Not just giving up because, like, day one, you didn't feel something from it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I agree completely. And the baby steps part is absolutely essential because we do expect instant gratification in this day and age. We want to go in and have a Reiki session and walk out and be completely healed.
Oh, yeah.
Go in and have a massage and then leave and have no more muscle pain or whatever. But the thing is, I'm learning for these 5 characteristics of people that have chronic illness, the way to heal is not, you know, by taking a pill and like dealing with all the side effects that come along from that, but it's in each and every time that you notice that you're concerned about someone else's emotional health at the detriment of your own, and you say, nope, stop. How do I feel about this? That's them, this is me, I'm not responsible for that, I'm responsible for this. Every time you say, it's okay if they're disappointed in me, that has nothing to do with the way that I've shown up today, I've done my very best. It's every time that you say, I feel angry and I'm going to express this in the healthiest, most compassionate way that I can. That's how I feel the healing comes, in those tiny little baby steps. And then before long, you realize, oh my God, I don't do any of those things. Or, oh my God, I'm not triggered in the same way that I was before. But none of this is an overnight sensation.
Right.
Just like you said, none of these habits and beliefs formed overnight, and none of them are going to be fixed overnight. Just like you can't lose 30 pounds overnight. It took you a year, or however long it took you to gain those 30 pounds.
Right.
So yeah, I think it's essential that we focus on those baby steps. Really good point.
Yeah. Is there anything else? I know you talked a little bit about meditation is also a passion of yours.
Yeah. So that's what I love about EFT is that I've always tried to have this law of attraction manifestation practice. I've always tried to have these meditation practices and all these things, but all of my traumas were like not allowing me to believe my affirmations. So my manifestations weren't working. My traumas were keeping me in my monkey mind, and I wasn't able to really like sit in meditation and be calm with it because it was extremely uncomfortable. You know what I mean? So now that I have worked through some things, EFT has helped me with that, and I've finally been able to embrace a really beautiful meditation practice. So I just wanted to share that with you. You can go find it online for free. My teacher at EFT Universe taught it to me, and it's called Eco Meditation.
Okay.
I won't go too much into detail about it, but it basically just has 5 steps that he combined all that we've learned in science, help you get into alpha quickest.
Okay.
So 5 different things that you can do with your body that Joe Dispenza also does a lot. Love the man. All the people in the Transformation Leadership Council, you know, like Jack Canfield and all these really beautiful people have figured out the best ways to get you into altered states of consciousness pretty quickly. So get into your alpha, get into your theta, get into your delta, where the real work happens, where our subconscious is down there preening and like, you know, putting in stuff that it thinks is important and getting rid of stuff that it thinks isn't. And so by us getting into those meditative phases, stages, we can have more control over what our subconscious does down there. So ecomeditation.com is what it is. It's just ECO meditation, all one word, no dash or hyphens or anything. And I've been doing it every morning for about a month now, and I can tell you it has changed everything drastically. Drastically. I'm able to just close my eyes now kind of at this point and find peace. So EFT has been the best way for me to just kind of grab the machete and break through all the stuff that was preventing me from getting into this place that I've been searching for this whole time. So now that I can, meditation has really changed my life and been absolutely fundamental to me feeling like a whole person, a whole and worthy person.
You're a whole ass person.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's awesome. I am gonna also put all the show notes or all your links and some of your upcoming events so people can find you. I am glad we finally got together. I know there was some touch and go for a while.
Excited.
Yeah, and I'm excited for the work that you're doing. And like I said, I applaud you for sticking in there. It's tough, I know. I deal with it all the time. And sharing all your wonderful information.
Oh, thank you so much. I really, really look forward to working with anyone who's resonated with EFT, and you can find me at my website, AmandaWonderland.com. And then if you are a woman who resonates with anything that we said about feeling blocked and just wanting to change the way that you're showing up in your life, www.wakeupweekend.love will tell you everything that you need to know about our intensive transformational retreats.
Yay!
Yeah!
Thank you.
Super exciting. Thank you, Hope. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Your support will help me to continue this work. Until next time, be love and namaste.